Have you struggled with a plant and you just cannot get it to do what you need it to do? Well, stay tuned, because today we're going to talk about if it's time for you to just let the plant go. Hello beautiful plant people, welcome back to the channel. My name is Iana. If this is your first time here and you want to learn how to take care of plants as simply as possible, see what plants are in my collection, as well as unbox plants with me and other planty things, then please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any planty content. Hey beautiful plant people, so this is going to be another kind of video. Today is a third part in the What Plant People Don't Discuss series, and you know, before we talked about what happens when your plants get big or your collection gets big, when you're feeling overwhelmed and stressed. And now today we're going to talk about when it's time to let your plant go. So I feel like this topic is kind of a taboo subject in the plant community. I've seen a lot of times when someone has mentioned that they need to have given a plant away, or they sold a plant, or really, Sage? See, every time. It's every time. But you know, I feel like this is a taboo subject. When people mention that they need to give a plant away, they need to sell a plant, or they just toss the plant in the trash, people are like, oh, you threw the plant in the trash? Like, oh, you giving the plant away? Well, why? But you could do this, this, and this, and you could do this, this, and this is how I did this. And I feel like sometimes when we say these things, we make each other feel bad. And it's not like we don't try our hardest to take care of these plants. Some of us try and try and try, and we give it so many times, and we put so much effort into it, and we drive ourselves crazy, and we're losing sleep over it. We should never lose sleep over our plants and our plant collection. That shouldn't happen. So if it's time for you to part ways with a plant, then do it. If you need to have it to do it for your sanity, you do it for your mental health, then do it. And we shouldn't make each other feel bad for it, because that's what you need to do. You would do it for anything else in your life. You would do it if your relationship wasn't working. You would do it if you had too many things in your house and you need to declutter, to free up that mental space, that mental capacity. You would do it if you have a shopping addiction and you need to bring it back to a place where you can manage your finances. So plants shouldn't be any different. We do it in multiple areas of our lives, and we shouldn't make each other feel bad for it. Now, if you're having to give away a lot of plants because you just dropped the ball, or you just did not take care of your plants, then maybe that might be something you have to work on. But in this video, I want to first talk about the reasons why you may have to let plants go, transition plants, edit your collection, whatever you want to call it. You can call it different things if you don't want to make yourself feel bad, or you want to feel better about yourself, but we're going to talk about some reasons, and then I'm going to give you some tips to make it better so that you won't have to do it the next time, things like that. So first, you might have to let some plants go because maybe your collection got too big, or maybe your plants got too big from the growing season. And I can link my previous videos in this series so that way you could watch those, because I've also put tips in there. Maybe you made some plant mistakes as a beginner, a newbie, a more advanced person. Maybe you just bought a whole bunch of plants, falling into the hype of trendy plants or plants you see on Instagram or YouTube, so now your collection is too big to manage. Maybe you didn't do your research before you bought a plant, and the plant is just struggling and you just can't figure out what it needs to be able to grow. Or maybe you just simply are that person who loves to rescue plants at the big box stores. You see those plants on clearance and things like that. But sometimes when you buy those plants on clearance, they're not always the best specimens to buy, because sometimes they're diseased, they have pests, they don't have roots. So you're bringing that all back into your collection, and that can spread in your own collection. So if that plant is diseased or it has pests, then that's something that you're potentially bringing back to your own collection, and that could affect your other plants. Maybe the plant just does not fit your environment and it's not able to thrive. Maybe it's a calathea and your humidity is not high enough, or you don't have access to the type of water that it needs because calatheas need specific kinds of water. So maybe it just does not survive in your environment because you cannot provide those conditions. Maybe you are just overwhelmed and stressed it could be from your plants, other things that are going on in your life that are just affecting your ability to take care of your plants. You're losing sleep. The plants in your collection just don't bring you joy anymore. So maybe it's time to just look at your collection as a whole. You could do it like you're decluttering your house, and you could put, the ones you love and you're going to keep, the ones you're not sure about, and the ones that you just cannot stand and that you are going to give away, sell. Maybe your priorities or your situations change. All of our situations changed this year, and some of our priorities have changed this year. I got tons of comments on my last videos saying, where you guys had to step up and help out your families, and I commend you guys for doing that. That is amazing, because believe it or not, that's not everyone's situation. Everyone doesn't have the ability for a family member to step up and help their grandkids or help their children with their, with all this online learning. And especially for some of the people who are staying with their kids and their grandkids for a month at a time, or are only able to go home for the weekend. So you have to rely on your neighbors or rely on other people to water your plants. Your plants have taken a back burner. Maybe you'd take a couple of those plants and give them away or sell them or whatever to make your situation easier, because you've determined what your priorities have become. Maybe you're a huge propagator and you just love propagating plants. You snip, 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 snip. You have jars all over the place. You got this jar of Adansonii. You got this jar of Thai Constellation. Maybe you just like propagating, but then you look up and you just have too many propagations. Maybe you just had to figure out a way to be able to propagate but not have so many at the same time. Maybe you had to set up some kind of Etsy shop or something like that, so that way you can have the feeling of propagating and the satisfaction, but to have something to do with that afterwards. Or maybe another reason that you need to get plants away is because you have a plant that is just prone to infections, to pests, and you just cannot deal. There are a lot of plants that are always prone to pests, like calatheas, alocasias. Those are mostly spider mites. There's some philodendron and monstera that are prone to thrips, so maybe you just can't deal with those. Or maybe you just need to get more plants that aren't really prone to pests, like snake plants, ZZ plants. I've never had a pest issue with my Aglaonema, so maybe you can look into that. I'm gonna take a matcha break. So I'm going to give some tips and to either help you with letting go plants or with helping you to prevent this from happening, or maybe happening at a lower frequency. So first, you could always give away plants as gifts. Maybe give a plant away as a birthday gift, or a Christmas gift, or somebody is trying to get into plants. You could give them hopefully a easier beginner plant, so that way you don't deter them. But maybe you could give plants away as gifts, or if someone is really into a certain plant, you can give that to them. Or you can also always swap plants, and hopefully if you want to, you can swap for an easier plant or a plant that that you're able to take care of. Another thing you could do would be to sell plants, and this could be if you're trying to sell plants to maybe supplement some income. Maybe your situation changed and you need to make a little bit more money. Now I wouldn't go say just to buy plants and chop them up, because that's a whole other issue. But maybe if you're in your collection, if you have extra Adansonii or extra burl marks, that you could take a couple cuttings and root them or whatever and sell them to supplement your income. You could also sell or give away plants to free up your space. So maybe you need more space in your house, and that way, you know, if you had downsized from like a 10-bedroom to like a 2-bedroom, you could sell some plants or give away some plants to free up your space. You could also sell or give away plants to free up your time. So maybe if you don't have as much time as you did, you're helping your grandchildren with their online learning, you could sell or give away plants so that way you have more time to devote to your grandchildren. And in that way, you don't also have to feel bad about not always being there for your plants as well. So that way you can have more time to do all the things that you enjoy doing or all the things that you need to do. Work on creating the environment that you need for your plants. So maybe if you part ways with some plants and you leave the ones that you really like, you could work on seeing what those needs are. So you could work on the light, you could work on the humidity, you could work on air circulation. You could really create an environment for the plants that you really enjoy and that don't stress you out or make you feel overwhelmed. So that way the rest of your collection really thrives. Freeing up space also allows you to better quarantine your plants if you have an infestation, so that way you could be able to, you know, set a plant aside. Now this might be harder if your collection is a lot bigger, but maybe if it's a warmer day, you could put that plant outside. But if you make space, then that way you could quarantine your plants, or you can spread your plants out so they're not touching each other, and maybe that might reduce the amount of infestations, so that way you won't have to toss away plants if they become infected and you can't save them. Also, if you do more research before you buy plants, that way, you know, you still might have some plants that just don't do well, but if you research before you go out and buy plants, that reduces the amount of plants that just don't do well in your environment, because you will buy plants that you know you can take care of. Say if you're good at monsteras and you know the care of monsteras, then maybe you just focus on buying monsteras. Maybe you could start to inspect your plants regularly. Saw on my last comment that a subscriber wrote that she has a cleaning and inspection schedule, so I thought that was a really good idea. And so maybe you could get a journal or a notebook, because I had another comment come in that she writes everything in a notebook. And I also write things for my plants in my planner. So maybe if you want to get a notebook, a planner, anything that'll help you come up with some kind of schedule, so that way you can keep up with your watering, or you can keep up with your cleaning, or, you know, dusting of the leaves, or you can just put down a one day a month to inspect your leaves, so that way things might be more streamlined and manageable. Also, you want to give yourself a time period, and this is a really good idea that my mom came up with and that I kind of subconsciously do. You want to give yourself a time period of having a plant that does not do well in your collection. So whether this be 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, or a year, I wouldn't recommend going past a year, because you don't want to have a whole year of a plant that's just struggling and you just cannot get it, because that will not do good for your mental capacity. But if you give yourself a time period and you just say, okay, I'm going to give myself 3 months. If I can't get this plant to bounce back and do what I need it to do, then it's just going to move on and not just be that. I'm always looking at my plant collection and seeing which plants give me a hard time. If I cannot get a plant to do what I need it to do, it's got to go. It's got to move on. I got to give it away. I got to sell it. I got to do something. And that's how you deal with everything in your life. If something doesn't work, you give yourself a time period. You figure out a strategy. You say, okay, this is going to be my cleaning strategy. This is going to be my pest strategy. You give yourself a strategy and you attack it. And if it doesn't work, you move on. If you guys have ever had to let a plant go, or, you know, have had to rethink your collection, leave a comment down in the section below and let me know. And, you know, we all have our own opinions. Let's not make each other feel bad about it, and all work together and make this a hobby or a passion that we can enjoy and not stress over. But as always, I always appreciate you guys for liking my videos and commenting. Please comment and like. I love it when you guys comment, and y'all crack me up. There's some really good comments, and if I could pick all of them for a subscriber comment, I really would, because y'all crack me up so bad. As always, I'm going to leave another subscriber comment. Please like and subscribe. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.